When I started this video yesterday, started getting the backhoe out and dumping some gravel inside the forms, trying to be careful not to hit any of the stakes, not to mess up the forms or cave in the trench. But it started dumping rain on me yesterday, and I just didn't feel like working in the rain. So in between the rainstorms that were coming and going all day yesterday, I was out here shoveling a little bit of gravel, filling a little bit of the ditches up, but not much. Got out here this morning, still kind of cloudy, sprinkles once in a while, but I can get a lot more done. Got more gravel in here. I've gone around the outsides and I've put a little bit of gravel behind the forms to keep them from bulging out at the bottom. There's not really, I think there's a stake every 8 feet at the bottom of the forms to keep the forms from bowing out. But I put that 4-inch drain tube in, so I just put a little bit of gravel around that, and I can push up against the bottom of the form with my foot and it doesn't want to move too much. Maybe a 1/4 inch. It's not too bad. The bottom of the form is where it's going to have a lot of pressure from the concrete, all the weight coming down on it. So depending on the amount of pressure on the form boards depends on how thick the concrete is. The thicker the concrete, the less it wants to move. So when I talk about pressure against the forms, it does depend on the viscosity of the concrete. But I'm starting to get my grade here. I've got to have 4 inches for concrete, 2 inches for insulation foam, and you're supposed to have, well, I don't know if you're supposed to or not, but it says to bring in gravel that you can compact. I forget what the specific name for it is, fill gravel, whatever it is. Whatever you bring in, you're supposed to compact with a compactor or the little, I guess you'd call it a compactor, a little shaker thing that my neighbor let me borrow. So I'm going to bring in a bunch of gravel, bring this all up to grade so I can put the foam down. No, the vapor barrier first. Plastic vapor barrier, which is a 6 mil sheet of plastic. I picked mine up at the hardware store. It's 20 feet wide by 100 feet long. Well, first thing first, I've got to get this graded out and flat and 6 inches below the top of the forms. So I've got my string line with a nail on the top of the forms and the string running really tight across there. And I can measure from that string line down and it'll give me grade basically from the top of the forms down. I've got a little bit of a high spot over here. Got to drag some dirt out, put some gravel in. Any dirt I drag out, it's going to go in this center ditch because it's pretty deep. I've got gravel wrapped around all the plumbing pipes, so I don't have to worry about any bigger rocks that are sitting on top. They're going to get covered with gravel. They're not actually going to hit that main pipe that goes out to my septic tank. It's very well secured in this pea gravel sand mixture. If you look back at my last video, you'll probably see this PEX tubing taped up to this drain for the kitchen sink and taped up to the drain for the washing machine. And then just sitting underground, exposed to the ground, underneath the slab. My plumber suggested doing this because it's an easy way to pipe hot water and cold water over to the kitchen sink area instead of going through the ceiling and dropping down through the wall and coming in. There's not going to be a wall here to block off the kitchen from the living room. It's going to be a countertop island kind of thing. It's going to be connected to the wall, though. It's not going to be a true island. More like a bar area. So he told me it'd be easier to run it under the slab. Just put it in, don't have to worry about it, cover it in gravel, it's fine. The only thing I added to that was this 2-inch piece of conduit. I like the idea of having a way to replace anything that goes under the slab really simply. Piece of conduit, you can feed it through. Something goes wrong, you spring a leak, you just pull the lines through, feed new lines through it, and you're good to go again. So I did go down to the hardware store this morning and I bought 2-inch conduit, which is plenty big enough for this, I'm guessing 1/2-inch PEX. It slid through. I pushed both pieces through at the same time. It slid through no problem, really easy. I probably could have gone with 1.5 inches if I wanted to, but it might have been a struggle. It's going to be in the wall in the laundry room, just like all those drain tubes, and where the water comes in. It's all going to be in that one wall. That wall is probably going to have to be a 2x6 because I've got now a piece of 2-inch conduit coming up through it. So instead of that wall being a 2x4, it's going to be a 2x6, but that's a small price to pay. Difference is what, maybe 2 inches width in the board. You're not losing a whole lot of square footage. So that's what's new with the plumbing coming to the kitchen sink. I mentioned before that I've got gravel that I put in behind the form here on top of that piece of 4-inch drain pipe. This side has a little bit more gravel in it than the other side. I had to watch it on the other side when I started putting gravel in. It started pushing out on the bottom of the form, pushing it into the footing area, which wasn't suiting me too well because I didn't want my concrete to be thinner at the bottom. That, and I suspect when the inspector comes by and looks at the forms before I pour, he might notice them leaning in at the bottom. Probably won't like that too much. So I did have to do some extra work digging some gravel out of that side. I thought about putting little stakes at the bottom of the form holding it back, but I've got that piece of 2-inch foam I've got to put in here, and I can't put a stake holding the form boards back. It'll be in the way of the foam. So I just dug the gravel out a little bit where I had to, where the bottom of the form was leaning in, and it's looking all right now. I've still got the string line on top. Make sure it stays straight. I don't know when we're going to be pouring this. I'm going to try and get everything done and get the contractor out here that's going to be working with me on the pour. Have him come out and look at it before it's fully done and inspected. That way he can get an idea of what he needs to bring, how many people, where he's going to put his pump truck, and all that. Before I forget to mention it, my plumbing passed inspection. Inspector came out yesterday morning. He checked the grade. He looked at it, still holding water, signed off on it, said you're good to go. Start backfilling. Next time he needs to come out is to check everything right before I pour. I like to give a shout out to my plumbers. Proper Plumbing Solutions. 2 brothers that started a business last fall. If you're in the Yakima area of Washington or the Gorge area, they're licensed in Washington, they're master plumbers. They're trying to get their license in Oregon. So if you're just on the other side of the Columbia River, they're trying to get that so they can get their license over in Oregon so they can work over there also. I'm a little bit outside of their area, but they were more than happy to come out here and help me with my project. They're a little slow right now because they just started their business and they're looking to drum up some customers that can send out referrals and kind of spread the word that they're around. So a big shout out to Proper Plumbing Solutions. I'll try and get their logo and maybe put it right here. Look them up. They're a great company to work with. On that note, guys, I've got to get back to work. I've got a lot of work to do. Get this up to grade so I can put some insulation down, get some rebar on top of that, get this pour so we can start building on this house. Take it easy. Until next time, go make something.